I'm a warning from history. Learn from me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. We're from the ghost of Christmas future.
Boo-Foons, mystery investigators.
Welcome to the Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators. I'm Dan.
And I'm Steve.
And today we have got the very talented, the amazing Paul Gannon from the CheapShow Podcast with us and many other things.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Or rather, sorry for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure from our behalf.
Oh, well, no, thank you for having me on. I don't often get to talk about the paranormal. It's a very rare occurrence. Not a lot of people know that I've been involved in ghosts, and not a lot of people know I'm a big fan of Ghostbusters. So it's nice to finally talk about these things.
And you can talk freely about it. You're with friends here.
Yes, I've got a lot. I've got a lot to say. Go on.
So, well, I guess let's start off with those few people that have never heard of you. Who is Paul Gannon? Obviously, I know you from CheapShow Podcast. I've listened to many of the episodes, and you've got awards there. We were discussing that just beforehand, that you've been nominated for some.
Yep, it's nice. Makes me feel like a real podcaster.
Well, that's because you are. And I also know that you've done
500 episodes qualifies.
Oh, mate, 500. Yeah, 11 years.
That qualifies.
11 years of CheapShow.
Wow.
How appalling a concept.
You live for it.
I do, but the thing is, the thing with any long running thing is at a certain point you go, this has to stop eventually. And I've been thinking that every year for the past 7 years now. So I don't know. I don't think about it anymore. I just kind of keep my head down, plow on, and hope for the best, and hope that I keep the wheels spinning on it, really. But yeah. But other than that, what else have people seen me in? Well, by night, I'm a podcaster. By night again, I produce radio across the BBC, sometimes local radio, sometimes BBC 5 Live. I've done Bartians, which was a collab channel between Stuart Ashen and Barry from My Virgin Kitchen. Digitizer, obviously, with Mr. Biffo. So I've ruined both of those channels. What else have I ruined? No, and I've done bits and bobs. I used to do stand-up. I've been around, and I'm still somehow scraping by, being a cheeky little prick for money. So live your dream, everyone. Live your dream.
That's it. You can be what you want to be.
Yeah.
So that's it. I saw your stand-up the teletext thing many years ago. I think you did a short stand-up routine on there.
Yeah.
And that was excellent.
The thing is, I like stand-up. I like doing stand-up. I just hate doing stand-up, if that makes sense. I like being in a room and making people laugh and going, hey, hey, hey. But I also hate being in a room with people, full stop, by and large. I don't like the form of stand-up in terms of I'd rather be in a group with people on stage, not like an improv group, but just, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've seen Digitizer live, right? So you know that vibe is the kind of vibe I prefer for comedy. And then the traveling got more difficult, and the gigs, even though they were paying well, you saw less of the money because of travel costs and hotel bills went up and things. So eventually it just became and my heart's not in this, which is what led me to stopping doing it and moving over to radio and then starting CheapShow. So that's my origin story in that respect.
I'll admit, with CheapShow being the thing that I personally know you from, more of, whereas I know Steve knows you from other things. I was tempted to go to the charity shop and get a load of tat, and also go to the cupboard and get some ramen noodles out. But I thought that would be a little bit crass, so I haven't. So don't panic.
I wouldn't blame you. I wouldn't blame you, because when we have the odd guest on CheapShow, whatever they are into, we dive into for the whole episode, and then we promise if they ever come back, we'll never do it again. So I'd understand if you wanted to do a charity shop thing, but it would make me resent you professionally for a little while, if nothing else. So
yeah.
Well, and a deserved resentment, yes.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, I thought it would be crass, so I didn't bother doing it.
No, it would have been cool. I do it all the time for guests first time. It's like when Biffo came on CheapShow for the first time, I go, it's all video games. And he was like, oh, for fuck's sake, really? And I was like, yeah.
So that's what we're going to do, something different with you. That's what
we're go for it. Yeah, hit me with it. What do you want to know?
Well, we know that you are a bit of an expert of all things but you've been on many ghost hunts.
Yes. Yeah.
Experienced, I think.
Yeah.
Experienced.
I've got miles on the clock. I'll say that. The thing is, the sands beneath the feet of any ghost hunter shift quickly. So I haven't really been involved in ghost hunting in the way I was for a good 10 years now. And when I look at it today, it's it's the same but different industry, because I know ghost hunting from a more commercial point of view, if that makes sense. But I can get into that in a minute. But basically, yeah, no, I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I did put time on the clock due to how I got into it and how I got started.
Okay, so how did you get into it and get started?
I don't remember. No, sorry. So I'll start by saying this. The beginning of this story is quite dark. So about 2010, it's all in my book, which is one day I promise going to come out, but until then it's trapped in this horrible quagmire of administration and publishing companies burning from the inside out and all these kind of horrible things. But
I did actually put money down for that one, but even if pay for it, I don't mind. I'm just looking forward to reading it when it comes out.
It is coming. It's just going to be a long time coming. I don't even want to get into it now, because this is not a podcast about how much I hate the publishing industry. Put my teeth back in. I got into it a long time ago. Around 2010 or so, I was doing stand-up, but I was living alone in a tiny room in North London, pretty much depressed. I was at the temp jobs I was being thrown towards. In the evenings, I was doing bits of stand-up and, gradually making my way. And it was fine. But then I think I just reached a point, and I can't quite remember when, where it just snapped. And I had a suicidal night where I did something I deeply regret. I lived through it. I started realizing after that night I needed to do something with my life, because I think I was just hollow. I just felt hollow and completely detached from everything around me. Again, this has got a very, very, very long story short, but I eventually found myself in a room with a counselor talking about my mental health, having all these sessions with people, being moved from doctors to psychiatrists to counselors. And I'd, had the mental illness reviews, and I'd had the pills subscribed to me and all these kind of things. And it wasn't really working for me. The drugs I was taking, personally speaking, were just making me feel worse than being without them. I was sitting down with this woman, and she was asking me all these questions about the things I love. And she goes, it sounds trite when I repeat it back, but the heart of what she was saying was a little bit more kind of nuanced. But effectively, she said, you just need to get out more, effectively, is what she said. You come home to your tiny room, you don't speak to the rest of your flatmates who you live with, you feel like you're living in a jail cell, you don't have any hobbies outside of your work, the stand-up's not making you happy, there's got to be something outside of that. And because I was obsessed at that time with shows like Most Haunted and shows like Ghost Hunters, all those shows that just before they went massively off the rails were still fun to watch and engaging and exciting. And I was a big Ghostbusters fan. I had a fascination with ghosts and the supernatural when I was a kid. I always folded it into my like role play and writing and fiction and things. And so I just got to a point where it's like, well, why don't I just get out more by going ghost hunting? Because I'd noticed that there were companies online where you pay £30-40 for a night and you meet up in a haunted location somewhere in the UK with a company running these ghost hunt nights. I think the first one was established in like 2000 or 2001 called Fright Nights, and I believe they're still going. But they were the first to basically invite people to a haunted location with all the gadgets you became familiar with in shows like Most Haunted. And from like 9 o'clock at night till 3 a.m, you got to walk around a haunted house, use ghost hunting equipment, blah, 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 blah. And maybe you'll find something, but 9 times out of 10, most people didn't. But they were proving more popular as these shows became more successful. So I just invited myself along to one of these nights one night, had a really good night, even though nothing really happened. Got pally with the people who ran that company. And then all of a sudden they were inviting me along to every other weekend I could that was nearby. And then that was it. Nearly every other weekend I was not doing stand-up anymore, but I was going to some bloody castle or a hotel or asylum or bloody, I don't know, whatever, stately home, and doing a ghost hunt with these people. And I went from being an active participant to being like part of those groups. They would help me run a little session and take people on tours. I became, they trusted me, even though they knew I'd been honest with them about why I was doing it all. They still let me take these people about, and I always treated it seriously. I never tried to pull the wool over my eyes, over their eyes, and that's how it got started. Effectively, I was just spending every other weekend being picked up at a station sometime out of London, driven the rest of the way, coming back, and then getting the first train back in the morning kind of night. And it was great. I'm not going to say it cured my depression. It didn't, but it did give me a purpose all of a sudden. It did get me out the house. It did help me meet new people and go to parts of the UK I would never if I just stayed on my arse at home. So that's the origin story, basically, of that.
That's great. I mean, when you're suffering depression, I've been there as well, that just getting out of the house is tough enough. And you had something that actually got you out of the house. Yeah. Which is fantastic. That's a great step, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Fewer people around, much better.
Well, it's weird as well, because I know I say this a lot and it seems contrary to how I am when I'm on stage or performing, but I have massive social anxiety. Unless I really know the people I'm with, if I'm in a group, I'm the quietest one there. It's hard to speak. So I'm not overly comfortable with groups, but I found with this kind of thing, I'm not going to say it was different or better or whatever, but it just felt more familiar to be able to go along with these, because I could almost hide in the background of these groups and do my own thing.
Yeah.
But yet still be part of something. And then even when I became pally with the people who ran these groups and they let me, lead investigations and things, I still felt like, well, in that case, I was more like Showtime Gannon again, where it was like, hey, everyone, it's Showtime Gannon. Here's the thing. So, it used those stand-up skills in one extent for me to be the great host, but also it allowed me to sink into the background a lot of the times as well and just kind of, I don't know, do my thing in, I don't know, High Wycombe's, the Hellfire Caves. I could be right down the bottom of a cave and just do my own thing. It was peaceful, weirdly peaceful.
Did you find as well that a lot of the people attending these nights had their own needs to get out, perhaps were a little bit more socially awkward as well, so it's maybe easier to get on with some of them?
Maybe it's hard. One of the things that happened from doing all this, because it's worth noting right now, spoilers, I don't believe in ghosts. So, but for me, it was like, it's the iconography of the paranormal. It is the signifiers. It's like the haunted house on the hill, it's the Ghostbusters equipment. It's the Harry Price type people who, with the tweed jackets and a notebook and pen. It's the spiritualism, buffoonery. It's all these things that really like excite my imagination and really engage in it. Even though I know, I'm reasonably nihilistic. When you're dead, you're dead. Saying that, I've still got like things that have happened to me that I can't explain on these, but like the difference is it's how you approach that situation. If your first instance is to go, oh, that's a ghost, then you've kind of, you're not either not taking it seriously or you're already a believer and just go with it and you're a lost cause to me personally. It's more about the media literacy that we've lost as a part of it. But then I'm going down another tangent already. I'll stop. Because I will go on many, many tangents. But effectively, the people that I met there were, by and large, as varied as you could think. You'd have your believers, the people who were there who were totally into it. And sometimes they were the worst parts of the night because they were leading things and making things or imagining things happening or inserting their specialness into the night. And then you've got the disbelievers, the people who've been dragged along by their wives or boyfriends or whatever to come along and, put up with it for the night. But they were largely pleasantly quiet and nice and kept themselves to themselves. And then you had like hen nights and stag do's that would come along because, they booked it through some bloody hen night website and there's the package. Or you'd get like families, or some people would use it as their date night kind of thing. It was such a weird mix of people and all ages. I will say this, if I had to generalize, I would say a 70-30 lean towards women being the most common participants in these, specifically speaking, these tourist paranormal nights. And And then the 30% men were all kind of very strange types. But this is where I get into the whole. This is where it's like it's hard, because one of the reasons why my book's taken so long to come out was the first draft was 285,000 words. They only needed 95 from me, apparently. They didn't tell me. So I've had to halve it. So I ended up doing tons of research for all this kind of stuff. And then when you get into like the gender dynamics of ghost hunting, men and women, who are more likely to go, if you look at it at the very basic binary look at that situation, it is incredible how it is very female heavy. And there's loads of psychological and financial even reasons why that happens. But the men who are doing it, it's interesting in how the men who do it barrel in and try to re-own it as something more serious. It's like the greatest way I could describe it is look at someone like Zach Baggins from Ghost Adventures. Sorry, he is a guy who reeks of dude bro. He is a guy who, even though he probably had a bullied childhood and was kind of the odd kid at school, he's now reformulated himself into basically the Andrew Tate of ghosts. You know, he's got like a very strong opinion of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that macho point of view is because I don't want to, again, I'm generalizing, but I'm trying to prove a point. I would say if the men who don't find ghost hunting silly tend to want to reinvent it to make it more like it's fishing or some kind of technical sport. So while the women will mostly believe in their instinct and their faith and maybe more holistic methods, men are all about the gadgets, the science, quote unquote science, the toys, the kit, the night lights, the fancy cameras, because that's how they justify doing something dumb at 2 a.m. in a castle. You know,
I can't think of anyone who would go on a ghost hunt and been invited on a ghost hunt and would buy all of the equipment for the ghost hunt. I can't think of anyone like that, Steve. Can you?
Yeah, I wonder who did that last time. Yes, but I went on a ghost hunt on Saturday night.
Yeah.
In Plymouth to this old Miners' Arms, which we looked and it had no apparent hauntings until COVID or till the pub started financially struggling.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, that's another point as well. But go on. Yeah. Was this a private one, or was this a package kind of?
This is one through a Plymouth Paranormal.
Okay,
Paranormal Plymouth. So they have their own group. I mean, you pay to go and
yeah. I mean, I did hundreds of these, so yeah, I know. Yeah.
Everything you said you haven't been for 10 years, but what you just described was everybody there to a T.
Yeah, I know.
It was everyone. There was 2 blokes there. One even had like the fishing vest on with all the pockets with all the stuff in it, and
made popular by Ghost Adventures.
He looked like Derek and Cora, and apparently he has all the spiritual safety kit in case anyone gets possessed, because apparently another one of the blokes got possessed last time he went.
Yeah.
We did a Ouija board, and they're saying, why is the plunket, whatever it's called, moving up? And it's because the woman next to me was pushing it so hard down trying to move it, she was lifting it off the table.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. This is why it's such a difficult and reasonably thorny subject now, because when people say to me, what do you recommend when it comes to ghost hunting? I go, look for the channels that have small audiences, that don't have a big subscriber base, and most of their videos are boring, because they're the ones who are actually probably taking it seriously. Because, you know, see how forensic they get if they hear something, see how they react to a noise, see how moral they behave in that location, because that's the people you should be following and supporting. You online now on YouTube, what's happened is the model that was set by Most Haunted, Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, that has now genuinely deformed and mutated into the YouTube model, which is, hey, those TV shows were cheap as balls to make, and the iconography of how you shoot one is absolutely familiar and repeatable with what I've got on my computer. I can get a shit night vision camera, or I can get an app, or I can buy some things and I can start a YouTube channel. But the problem is that that's not engagement. What's engagement is screaming and running out of a room, or, having a friend throw a plate. But then you get further into that and you realize it's not just the dramatics. There's actual foul play when it comes to this evidence. Ghost Theory was a group that was popular online. A lot of people thought thought they were one of the serious groups. They were caught using a lot of computer effects to hide wires and move items around. And then they broke their channel down and became a top 10 all of a sudden. And then you've got people like Twin Paranormal, who were the most vile, despicable bellends on YouTube when it comes to ghost hunting. These are two guys in their 30s who dress like they're in their 20s, who behave like spring break, to the point where they'll go to a house where the story is basically a woman was abused and then murdered and left for dead, and maybe her ghost's in the house, right? But they go where they go, woo, murder house, possess me. And you just think, how utterly disgusting is it that you're taking something real and tragic and you're turning it into, a vulgar B-movie adaptation of the Blair Witch Project, effectively. And so, but that quagmire is what the industry is right now, because you look at Twin Paranormal and they'll probably get, I don't know, 250, 700,000 views. I don't know. It's like they get a lot and they have an army behind them. And that army likes to attack people who question the outcomes of their videos. And even though there's blatant fakery going on, at no point does YouTube force them to say this has to be for entertainment purposes. At no point do they state that. They don't need to, because it's up to them ultimately that their audience fight that out in the comment section below, which is their engagement, which is what actually makes their channels big. So it's drama and discourse, and there's very little scientific method now.
Mm-hmm.
God, I go on, don't I?
No.
I have lots of opinions.
No, you're fine. So you've been on many ghost hunts.
Yeah.
You said you've led them as well.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced anything?
Yes. Weird things. It's weird. I haven't seen anything. I've never seen anything. I've never seen a shape, a shadow. I've never seen something move. I've never seen a plate shake across a table. Nothing like that. It's always been audio type stuff, or in some weird instances, light anomalies. The one I can never explain, and I this is me not saying anything other than what I saw, right, was I think I was in Fort Widley. Is it Fort Widley? Which is it's near not Southampton, along the coast from Southampton, Portsmouth. It's somewhere there. It's an old fort right on the coast. And we were in, actually, two things happened there. And the two things I may as well mention now. The first one was the light anomaly. We were in a room. It was right down the end of this corridor. It was all sealed off, one way in, one way out. I was alone. And I just remember feeling a pain in my hand. And then when I looked at my hand, just, even though it was pitch black, you still, your motor functions still make you want to look at your hand and look at the pain. I looked down, and for a short moment, I just saw a little white ball of something like pop into existence and pop out, almost like a spark of lightning, I guess. Which, to be fair, I don't know if it might not have been. I mean, there was no rugs or carpets in this place because it was all stone. But like, that pain went away the minute that little flash happened. And I can never explain that. I don't know what I saw. But the other story about that, which is a bit more kind of supernatural than just having a light ball in your hand, like, a shuriken. I used to always take a hand recorder around with me because, I'm a man of podcasts and radio, so I like to record things. And, I would record hours of stuff and listen back to it and hear nothing, or stuff that you could misinterpret purposely to be supernatural. I took a hand recorder to this place, Fort Widley. We are in this fort. We're up a level and along, and we're in this kind of corner turret room. And it just after midnight, not too long after midnight, we start hearing these ba-ba-boom, ba-ba-boom, like cannons going off. The strangest sound. And when we, walkie-talkie down to the other group below, we're saying, can you hear these big bangs? Is there like fireworks going off outside? And we're like, no, we're not hearing anything. And you're like, you can't hear this? Ba-ba-boom, ba-ba-boom. And then it stops. And then I play it back, and like you can hear it on the audio. And we can't explain it. But all someone said to me afterwards was, oh, that corner place you're in. Oh, that was like the cannons were there when they were firing out at ships at sea. So maybe you heard the ghostly cannons. I don't know. Maybe.
So stone tape theory?
Well, I mean, the zone tape theory is bollocks, but but it's as good as any. It's as good as any. The stone tape theory always bugs me because, like, you do know it's invented from an author's ghost story based on already disproven scientific studies.
Yeah, well, we went on the ghost hunt. I don't know if you're aware, Paul. We went on a ghost hunt. No, you're fine. With Biffo, not that a few months ago to Hitchin. And there we were the only group that ended up experiencing everything. All the other groups went around and it was just our little group that experienced that weird thing in the corridor of the potential little girl that Cliff was running up and down the corridor with. I was about to say playing with, but that would be really bad to say.
Fair enough.
But running up and down the corridor with, which, well, we assumed it was a girl because it was a girls' dormitory. And every time he said 3, 2, 1, go, all the energy meters, that's it, EMF, they were going on, off in a pattern all the way down the corridor.
Okay.
And then you guys, I still can't remember why I missed it, but you guys then had the experience in the bunker.
So we went down to the bunker. There's a bomb shelter there. They've only got one tiny light switch light above, 12 feet in this, this big ceiling. Put EMF meter on the bed, put one onto the table. I was sitting in there for ages before anyone turned up. Then they turn up and I scare them because I'm sitting there in the dark. I've done
that myself. I've upset many small children by accident that way.
Yeah, it's good fun, isn't it? It makes a day. So Cliff came down, sat down. So the same Cliff who was talking upstairs and things, the EMF meters were responding, sat down at the table and he started talking. He was really getting into it. And then the EMF meter on the bed went just all the way to red and it wouldn't come off red. And then he's chatting and said, okay, are you the person we were playing with upstairs? Come sit with me at the table. And then the EMF meter on the table just went all the way to red and stayed at red. And whilst he was talking, they were both, and it was in a sealed, stone ward with only one light switch, one light above us.
Yeah.
Everybody had their phones on flight mode because we double checked it upstairs because we weren't going to let that do anything. We didn't have any radio mics or anything like that. And both these, the only time I've replicated that is when I put the EMF meter onto a wireless charger, directly onto it. And it's the only way I can get it to go red. But it responded. I sneezed really loudly and they both went off and didn't come back on, and we never got anything back. So it's my fault for spoiling it, but it was fascinating.
It is,
and it was only our group. Everybody else was there, nothing else.
Yeah,
all the equipment, different places.
Because this is the thing. Again, going forward, it's like, even though I am skeptical and I have the faith beaten out of me, I am loath to tell people what their experience was wrong or out of order. Right? There's a reason for that, and that is ghost hunting is absolutely not scientific. I know people like to pretend that's the case, but really it is and will always be a pseudoscience until something concrete and measurable and repeatable is discovered. But it's important that it's a personal experience. It's like, it's how you have experienced something that you can't explain one way or the other. Now, a lot of weird things happen. Does that mean there's life after death? No, not necessarily. But that's the interesting part, I think. It's like there's still stuff we don't really know about the universe. Not in a kind of, conspiratorial, anti-vax kind of way. I mean, just in terms of there's still a lot of the universe we don't know about. And so there's still gaps for us to fill. And I think that's still why it is important that if you're going to do ghost hunting, take it seriously, right? Because have you ever read a book called Paranormality by Richard Wiseman?
No, I haven't.
Great book, because it's effectively about how the book's premise is effectively, if ghosts don't exist, why does our brain see this stuff or react to it? So it's about how kind of like through some paranormal study, we have discovered things about our brain, about how our brain works. And so it kind of marries the kind of paranormal origin of certain things, like, like life after death, like seeing a tunnel at the end of the thing and then having an out-of-body experience. Like he talks about how the brain deals with that and illusions and memory and time dilation. And it's a really good book. It was one of the books that I found really inspiring. But again, in that book, he goes, well, without study into night terrors and things like that and life after death, we wouldn't understand how our sleep patterns work and how our brain works when we shut down. These kind of avenues of interest only really properly opened when we looked at a very weird corner of that science. So, so when you're out ghost hunting, I always go, kind of forget the gadgets, but just experience the night, because the gadgets are kind of like bringing a psychic along with you, in that without a psychic, you might not have anything happen for a few hours, but the gadgets might actually give you something to have fun with. I'll just say this, because gadgets is a whole other thing I can talk about. But like, there's a guy on YouTube called Kenny Biddle. He's an American guy. He's a ghost hunter. He's a believer, but he did an amazing video on why ghost hunting equipment fundamentally doesn't work, and he breaks down why EMFs don't work, and why they're not trustworthy. How REM pods are basically theremins. Night vision. He breaks it down, because it's a thing that I've often believed when I go ghost hunting. When I've been recently, I kind of go this: I'm a naked ghost hunter. I'm just going to see and record with audio and one camera, and anything else that comes up has to therefore be something I can, investigate in the moment. If I've got any other gadget with me, I'm kind of ruining the experience for what I want. So that's kind of what I do now. If I'm invited along now, I kind of go, I don't want this and that. I don't want any of these gadgets. Hearing enhancers, recording device, camera good enough to film in low light, and then we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and feeling has a lot to do with it, doesn't it? How you feel in locations.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I seem to fail. I think I'm not very open for that kind of thing, because everybody else is saying, oh, this room is really spooky. Don't you feel it? It's like, no, I could quite happily live in this room. It's like, everywhere we've gone, it's like, no, I feel really chilled here. Everyone goes, it's so scary. It's like,
there were so many times when I'd go to some bloody scariest balls or, haunted building. If that's the corridor where the man was strangled, don't go down there. And I'd be like, I'm off here, down there for a bit. And then, to be fair, I got a bit of reputation of like being a mood spoiler, but I did try not do that, to be fair. I kind of just I would set the table and then back away and let them do their thing. But yeah, no, they thought I was some kind of anti-ghost magnet or whatever.
It was so funny on this one we went to the weekend. I'm hopefully going to get them on as a guest as well, the guys who actually run it. But he was saying, we're not going to tell you anything about it. We want you to experience it. It's your night. You tell me how you feel, you do it. But we used to have this friend, a guy used to run the company with us. He got possessed here. He hasn't been able to do it since. He's now had to leave, then his wife goes, I can't go into that room there. It's way too scary. And then they start listing out all the things, and it's like, okay, William died here, and there's supposed to be a ghost called William and two called John, another one called William. We won't see anything about them, though. See if you get any names come up.
Yeah. It's the thing is, it's interesting, because so many ghost hunting groups, I think, hearts are in the right place. I think when we get into the corporate side of things, it starts getting murkier, because I can reasonably vouch that for the 2 or 3 paranormal groups I worked with, they didn't set out to cheat people. I'm not saying they never did when I wasn't there or before or after, but certainly on every one I did, I never felt like people were being hoodwinked or, they often would say, the guy who ran the company would often say, we'd rather you have a great night with us but have no ghost sightings than think we've ripped you off or, scared you for no real reason tonight. And that's valid. It's just that you start getting into, people see these shows on YouTube and on TV and they go, why isn't this happening to me? Why aren't I seeing that thing, that glass smash? Or why am I not being possessed by a skinwalker? Other than the fact that skinwalkers aren't a thing in the UK or Europe or anywhere out of a very specific part of America, but are now appearing in everyone's YouTube videos everywhere. Or, and it's also when they start bringing like a religion into it as well. I find that disturbing. It's just like there are so many warning signs to look for that I don't think people do, because ultimately, certainly when it comes to the corporate tourism side, it's like they don't really care, and you kind of throw your money at what you want. You roll your dice on that by and large. When you get to the private groups, heart's more in the right place. However, you are going to get into the tricky element of morality. And I've always said, and this is where I'm just going to bore you with a little bit, and then please interrupt me and tell me to shut up, because again, I am talking a lot. But the biggest issue I have with ghost hunting these days is forget about the fakery, forget about the videos online with fake, forget about the sadly growing trend of AI ghost hunt evidence videos, which makes it even worse. Forget about all that. If you sit down in front of your favorite ghost hunting channel and you can walk away from that feeling morally pure, then that's a good channel as well, because so many of them are so ignorant to basic human emotion at times. It's often disrespectful. The example I always give is I kind of, when I first started doing the ghost hunting thing, I looked for experts and people online I could get in touch with, and one of them was a lady called Hayley Stevens, who is a great ghost hunting geek and a big skeptic. She loves it. She's had her own paranormal experiences, but she's also very, very skeptical in a way that I think is what you need. You need to get rid of as many questions as possible until you can say, well, this might be paranormal then. But she was the one who really opened my eyes to the idea of like paranormal, like morality. The example she gives, and I'm going to butcher in my very offhanded 10 years down the line remembrance of what she said. But effectively, imagine if you have a house and you've got a family, you've got kids, and every night you hear banging or groaning, or you hear something that unsettles your family. And then maybe your daughter or your youngest child, whatever, says, Daddy, I see a scary man in the corner, right? And so you're a little bit scared. It's getting out of hand. And you look online or on Facebook or on YouTube and you find that, oh, look, there's a West Acton's ghost hunting group. They'll come in and then give me, and then evaluate my house because they're all experts. But you're inviting in a group of strangers you don't know. I mean, again, there is no such thing as having a doctorate in paranormal studies. I know that there is like people like Chris French, and there's people like Kieran O'Keefe who have, doctorates and things like that in paranormal. It's not exactly paranormal studies, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
But it's not a real science. You can't go to a supernatural school and learn supernatural stuff and then be an expert in it. No one's an expert in the paranormal, I've always said, because there's no such thing. There's no rule book to be an expert of it, if that makes sense. And so if they spend the night in your house and one's a psychic and they're very, open, and they're going around going, there's bad vibes. And then you've got people like rooting around in your house. And at the end of the evenings, they go, oh, well, we think Bob here picked up the spirit of a rapist on our radio set, said it will kill before New Year's. And we've got that. And it's bad vibes in this place. Terrible. Oh, it's a terrible ghost. Bye. Thanks. And then they put their video up on YouTube, and you're left now in a place where what might be just your pipes need lagging is actually now you're convinced there's a dangerous, toxic presence in your house. And I think at that point, that's where, like, moralistically, everything about that situation is wrong. And so that's kind of where I am ultimately with it. Morality and media literacy are the two big issues with me when it comes to the paranormal these days.
I was going to say that morality thing that started with the Warrens, obviously, when they were doing their investigations all those years ago, that they just did not care for the people. No, because they basically kicked their doors down to get into.
Yeah, because they were basically selling the gospel. They were using ghost hunting as a way to basically convert people into Catholics or whatever it bloody was. You know what I mean? They brought so much. It's like a pyramid scheme, the Warrens, in many respects, what they did and what their legacy they left behind. But they are part of that. But if you wanted to be really anal about it, you could go further back and blame Harry Price. You could go back and blame the Fox sisters. I mean, you could point a direction into where the rot started. But effectively, if you step back even further and go, if it's all a con game from the point of view of these people, where do you go if you want an honest, quote unquote, honest ghost hunting experience? And I think that's the thing that's getting harder to find.
On the morality, that's one of the reasons why I've always had a bit of an issue with things like clairvoyancy and things like that, because the people that tend to go and see a clairvoyant are people that are suffering the recent trauma of a lost one and want to reconnect, and immediately they've got this information and they're spreading these messages from the other side. And that being said, now, ever since doing this podcast, my TikTok algorithm is now filled with psychics, clairvoyants, aliens, ghosts, and so forth. And there are some lives that I have seen where some of them, it's very much the we'll do a reading for you if you gift us this amount of money. And I immediately go, yeah, okay, well, that's not going to be a thing. However, there was one that I was watching, which was really interesting. They didn't ask for any gifts at all, to the point where they even specified on the screen, do not gift us. We do this for free and use our talents and gifts for free and pass it on. And they were doing this very interesting thing where they were just going, oh, I'm getting and it was the whole, I'm getting a vibe here of this type of person. But then they weren't inviting people in to be a guest and talk until they had confirmed multiple things. So they would be like, right, I'm getting, it's a man at the time, he was in his 40s and his name was probably Paul or Steve or
probably
something like that. And then if people then went, oh yeah, that's me, and then they'll then go, right, and here's a very specific thing, like he really loved collecting Lego. And then you immediately go, right, okay, and obviously that's not the most specific thing ever, but and then you'd get somebody in the chat going, yeah, I know that person. And then they would get them in, and then they wouldn't, and the interview style that they had wasn't so much, tell me everything that you know about this person, just to confirm. It was more, I'm getting this thing and this story. And if the person said, oh no, that doesn't sound like them at all, they're like, well, okay, well, it's that case, this isn't a message for you. And then there'd be someone else in the chat going, oh, actually, it could be me. And then they would get them in and then start giving them.
Yeah.
And that one felt more. Now, yes, I have my own opinions on clairvoyancy. I think, personally, I think it's all a load of squit. But it felt more genuine purely because they weren't doing it for gifts or anything. And the way they were getting people out of the chat into the guest box and the way they were talking and everything, even you sat there going, oh, and you felt warm by it, going, that's a really lovely message that person spread to that person. Whereas those that are sitting there going, if you want a reading, you've got to give me this massive gift and then I'll do your reading. That feels immediately illegitimate to me straight away. Than that morality side of things, I immediately go, right, okay, well, you don't care, do you?
Yeah. I mean,
you just take.
I ended up working with psychics every weekend, and I went on tour with Derek Akora for a few stages. I just, again, in my book, I had to take out 3 whole chapters that I could have just written a few sentences for, which were psychics or scumbags, and that would have done the job of those 3 chapters. But it's like, I just can't morally get behind the concept of that, because
yes,
if it was a real gift, it wouldn't be as vague as it is. I just think it's one of these situations where if it was a real gift and that was the real intent behind your powers, it's like it wouldn't need this much crowd work to get information out of anyone, full stop. But also, I've always said this, it's like people don't get one thing in life when it comes to a breakup of a relationship or a death in the family or a job even, but like, it's closure. We're lied to be told that, you know, you need closure on things. And I think it's that it's one of those things that everyone wishes they could have, but some people don't, and some people linger with that for the rest of their lives. And I think it's those kind of people that are exploited by the paranormal community, and specifically psychics, because psychics are basically ventriloquists for your dead relatives, right? They're sat on the knee of this stranger you don't know, who's saying things on behalf of someone you loved dearly or something you love dearly, right? And it's a puppet show. And also, they are putting words into the mouths of a stranger is putting a bow on the life of someone you knew who lived. And like, if that message is positive and kind, wonderful. I hope you get the closure you need from that statement. But if what you take away from that is that that person was unhappy, or they were angry or upset, or they have regrets, that's not closure. That's just someone kicking the moral can down the street for someone else to deal with. And that's how a lot of psychics work. They work on the vagaries so they can kick that can down the road, and then that person chases the can to the next psychic or a ghost hunt. It's like when we talked earlier about what kind of people do these ghost hunts. I remember vividly one night we were in, I think it was another fort. God knows which fort it was. They literally blur into one. But outside, after about a few hours of the ghost hunt, I was having a cigarette, and there's a woman with her friend talking, and another person. And that person was a stranger, and that person asked the woman, "Why are you here tonight?" And she said, "Well, my husband's, not got long to live. He's in hospital. I've come here tonight to feel like he's going somewhere after he dies." And it's not my point at that point to go up to her, tap her on the shoulder and go, "You know all this is shit, right?" Because that's absolutely not the thing I should be doing, nor, do I have any real opinion on that. To me, it's sad, but I do get it. There's a very human need for answers and closure. And the horrible thing about the paranormal and ghost hunting and psychics is that it is like watching Lost. It's about being promised a lot of things that are coming, but they never actually come in the end. You know what I mean? At the end.
Yeah.
And that's the tragedy of it. It's about selling a promise of closure or an answer. One of the biggest answers of all time, what happens when we die, and effectively making that something of a pyramid scheme to earn money or to become an expert in something that really doesn't matter. It's taking something of a folly, made it, democratized it, but at the same time, all that's done is make the industry as a whole more disparate and fragmented and problematic in general. And so again, I go back to my point where it's like, my heart always says, go with the moral route, find the groups that act moral, find the people who care, find the people who don't just want attention, because they're the people who are probably most passionate about it, and maybe get the best results after years of maybe nothing.
Yes.
I mean, that was the joke I used to say in my stand-up about it. Ghost hunting is like fishing. You spend hours doing nothing, and then you lie about what you caught.
Yeah. That people have to justify it. I mean, if you're running these experiences, you have to justify what you're doing. At least a lot of people would do it. I guess some people wouldn't have to worry about it as long as the money's coming in.
Yeah,
but
I mean, sorry,
justify
I'm talking and interrupting, but there is good to come out of it. I mean, as we say, it's like, if it's a pub that has never had a ghost in its life, but after COVID, maybe it's got a pub now, and let's all help keep the lights on. Fine, right? Don't care. It's like if you go to a place that's an old stately home and they do these things to help maintain this old building which has hundreds of years of history, and you learn a little bit something on the way, great. If you get to explore the country and meet new people and expand your mind or ask questions, great. I'm not saying ghost hunting as a form is bad. It's like saying video gaming is bad because look at what happens at Columbine or whatever, a reductive argument like that. It's like, no. There is good there. It's just right now the noise is louder from the least palatable parts of the internet.
Yeah, I was just thinking back to you saying about hearing and you said this is how I've got to this. You said stand-up comedy, and I've just and my brain has just gone, you're Paul Gannon and you've experienced a ghostly canon. So hopefully, if you can find the audio, we can put in Gannon's ghostly canon somewhere in their thing.
I will have a look because I know I have it on a hard drive. It's just the one I have plugged in isn't that hard drive. So yeah, but I'm pretty sure I've got it. It's a spooky little bit. But I haven't got any spooky pictures, no spooky, no video, no, nothing. And yeah, God, I've got so much to say.
But those experiences on their own, but the fact we've done this all the time. The amount of people we speak to say, I don't believe in it, but this has happened. I can't explain it. There's still so much happening in life we can't explain. And
because that's what's fun about it, though. That's ultimately why I think a lot of people do it. I think you could argue there is some civil servant who has a dreary life who gets to play a Ghostbuster at the weekend, and that's what makes his life worth living. Great. That's what I did. That's how I got out of my misery pit. I did something dumb and had a great time doing it. And I learned a lot, and I met some friends, and then I had this whole adventure, right? Stuff that wouldn't have happened if I'd stayed miserable in my room, locked up, sad, detached.
Certainly in a much better place now because of that. You can't be in a worse place, can you? I mean, it did sound.
I mean, it's all perspective, isn't it? It's all perspective.
Yeah.
And I believe you're looking at potentially turning all of your ghostly knowledge and experiences into a podcast soon.
Yeah, I thought I'd flood the market with another pointless paranormal podcast. Because I'll just be honest, I hate uncanny. And so this podcast is coming out of spite, is what it comes down to. I hate uncanny so much. And people have said, oh, you're just bitter and angry. And I'm like, no. It's just an awful show made by idiots. That's why I don't like it. Anyway, because I've been doing Cheap Show for like 11 years, and I do love Cheap Show and all this stuff. It's like sometimes I think people only think of me as that version of me from Cheap Show, which is highly strung, violent, selfish, egotistical, incompetent. And it's like, yes, I am those things. It's just there's other elements of me I would like to put out into the universe. And so I spoke to a friend of mine, Ria Lena, who's a stand-up comedian. She's been on bloody everything these days. And I was just like, can we work together on something? And she goes, yeah, I want to do a paranormal thing. And I went, really though? Do you want to talk about anything else? And she goes, no, I really want to talk about the paranormal with you, because she's kind of like me, but she's a much smarter cookie. She is, I'm not even going to get into her list of like doctorates and bloody diplomas and things. But she's a smart cookie and a funny lady. And I said, well, if we're going to do a ghost hunting thing, I don't want to do just like not every other, that's not fair, but I don't want to be the podcast that goes, hey, have you ever heard of the Enfield poltergeist? Here's our 4-part episode about that. Because, I mean, it's been done. It's just been done, and that's fine. And that's not a criticism. It's an observation, right? And I don't have anything to add to that story that hasn't been said. So what I said to Ree was, if we're going to do this, and I think I've used this word correctly, I want to do it in a more holistic way. So I want to tackle how reality and the paranormal clash. And so the best example I can give to just roll off the top of my head is like, I want to do an episode about the paranormal and the law, because in the either late 1800s or early 1900s, there was the case of the Hammersmith poltergeist, where there was a case in Hammersmith in London of this white figure running out and scaring people. It eventually led to one day a man walking down the street in Hammersmith saw the ghost, pulled out his shotgun and shot it, because it was a prank. It'd been some prank that got out of hand from this guy who I think ran a sweet shop. I might be wrong, but it basically apparently is a prank that got out of hand that led to this guy. He even got shot and injured or died. However, that case changed the law in the UK. It led to a court case that changed how, to this day, how we have, the right to bear arms doesn't exist in this country. It's about how the guns laws change. So I wanted to talk about things like that, like the law and the paranormal, or like if you go in America, if you think your house is haunted, you should say that if you're trying to sell it. Why, if the law doesn't recognize the paranormal, do you still have to legally make sure that you say on your thing, this house has been known to be haunted, because it can lead to extortionate lawsuits. So all things like that. Or I want to talk about like the gadgets of ghost hunting. I want to do an episode where I break down all the big gadgets and say why they don't or do work, or how they've been used in the past. So you know what I mean? I want to do a kind of broader podcast about the paranormal. I wanted to call the podcast, was it like the Richard Richet podcast or something? Oh, I've forgotten his name. And you always forget important things, because he was a guy who was a Nobel Peace Prize winner back in the 1800s, but also invented the term ectoplasm because he was deeply into the paranormal. So I like that conflation between a guy who won a physics award but still went ghost hunting. And I thought that was a good example of that would be what the podcast is about. But unfortunately, Ria liked the word paranormalized instead, so I think we're going to call it that. Okay, that's cool. We'll see. Paranormal, normalized. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's not great. But it's the best we could come up with, and I'm tired of arguing with Ria.
She's too smart for you.
Yeah, really, genuinely. And you know what? There's going to be another hill I want to die on at some point down the line creatively. So I'll pick my moment to strike.
Well, we ended up with Boo-Foons because we're buffoons. So,
but you know what? That's great, because I've been trying to think of puns for 2 weeks about our title. I couldn't come up with anything near as good as that. So, I always appreciate a good pun.
Yeah.
So when do you plan to start this podcast? Any idea yet? Is it?
It'll be a few months away yet, mainly because with Cheap Show 500 coming up, like all my attention is trying to get that sorted, because that's going to be a big deal. So it might be, we might launch it September-ish. We're not, unlike Cheap Show, which is weekly forever and it's killing me. This will be like a series of 8 episodes at a time. maybe twice a year. You know what I mean? So it's something I can do more leisurely. So it might be that we won't launch anything until like, September, once I've got Cheap Show and all this stuff out the way. Fingers crossed anyway.
I certainly look forward to it.
Yeah.
Me too. It would just be fun to talk about stuff that isn't, poo or noodle related or, whatever. And I even said to Rhea, apart from maybe a few notices at the beginning, it'll be a no Ghostbusters zone. I promise I will not bore her with Ghostbusters facts. It won't be that podcast.
That could be a separate podcast, I'm sure.
Well, again, that's another topic that I can't wait to never talk about again.
Well, I've got to say this. I must admit, going around everyone talking about the ghost hunt, and it's like, oh yeah, my relative spoke to me, and we had the Ouija boards out, and I remember my dad telling me that he had an experience with a Ouija board where his brother spoke to him after he had died with friends who didn't know anything about they even had a brother, and it all came through, and to a point where he didn't want me doing this podcast because he was so freaked out about it all these years later.
Wow.
And so I'm doing this Ouija board thinking, I hope Dad, because I lost Dad in January, and I kept thinking, wouldn't it be cool if he did? But there was nothing.
I mean, if there's any consolation, when Houdini died, he said he had a secret word only his partner would know, and he would come back. And they did a big seance, didn't they, at the Royal Albert Hall a year later, and that word never came through. So, it's like they always let you down when you need them most, don't they, ghosts?
Yeah, absolutely. Because he was...
It's just funny. I mean, when I did Psychic and Science, the theatre tour thing, which is basically Imagine Most Haunted, but live in a theatre, that was like one of the best years of my life, to go around the UK and all these big theatres and see these big audiences and in it. And even though it was full of crackpots and weird old people and mentalists, both mentalists as in terms of like people with a psychic gift and people you should stay away from. There's loads of, it was just one of those things that I'm thankful I got to experience, because, as I say, my life could have been very different or a lot shorter had I not decided to do something dumb rather than, wallow in my grief. And I've always said to people, never follow my route when it comes to like dealing with depression. But I always say the best way to deal with it is keep yourself busy or infused in something, or find something that is yours that you can have fun with, no matter how dumb. And if that's video games, great. If that's cooking, great. If that's going for long walks, whatever it is that changes the record in your head is always better than letting that bad music play.
100%. Yeah.
No,
when you were telling your story earlier of being the doctor telling you, go out, do something. I remember just going out on a train and going on a pub crawl, and then it wasn't until, and then I started doing that because I was signed off work, and I was like, fair enough, there's no one around, I'll go to Seaside and do a pub crawl. It wasn't until much later I realized that the medication I was on, I should have read the box, because in big capital letters it said, do not consume alcohol. So therefore my sort of way of dealing with that was a thing that I shouldn't really have been doing. But
was that the story that ended up with you? Was that the story that ended up with you naked at Walt Disney World Paris? Is that story? I seem to remember hearing that somewhere.
I wish I could take credit for that. No,
well, there was quite he got drunk the other day with his friends and ended up promising to send them an envelope with something quite unsavory in it, and he didn't remember anything about it until the next day.
Oh, did you put mayo in?
He actually cut it. Yeah, his own homegrown
there
mayo.
There we go. Yeah. See, so it's not me that has these thoughts. It's just not just me that has the exact same thing. We were having a discussion of what would be the worst thing to receive in the post. And for some reason, that's where my mind went, as opposed to anything else that could have been like a severed head or something like that,
Yeah.
It was Dan's creamy goodness. Funny, he was talking about it in a podcast and he cut the whole thing out. I don't know how he managed to cut that bit out of his podcast.
No, that's the good shit. That's the stuff I keep in Cheap Show. That's the stuff that keeps that machine turning.
Absolutely, that's the stuff I love. And you and Eli, when you go on some of the stuff you come out with, it's like, this just keeps me laughing.
We did an episode, I think it was episode 74, I mean, literally, I'm editing episode 489 right now. It's crazy, but we did a ghost hunt in North Finchley, Finchley House or something, whatever it's called. Can't remember now. But I remember that was the first and last time I ever wanted to do ghost hunting with Eli, because I was really into it and keen. And if you ever listen to the episode, it's just him complaining nonstop about how boring and tired he is. And eventually got to the point where we left early to get a night bus home. And that night bus was so popular, we span off a whole other podcast from it. We just went night busing. So that Cheap Show train, it keeps derailing for some reason. The train always jump onto another track and keep on going. It's, I don't know, whatever. But
That's
it's
awesome.
funny. Ghost hunting does take you places you don't expect. Sometimes Rotherham.
Well, that's how we ended up starting the Saturday shows, where our Wednesdays are main, talk about a mystery, talk about something weird. And we found that we would record for like 3 hours to only use 45 minutes of it. But then when I was sitting editing, I'd be going, well, actually, there's 2 and a bit hours of stuff here that's actually really good and quite funny. Doesn't necessarily fit in with the mystery, but it's quite. So we then came up with the Saturday show of that's our nonsense, and that's our one where we just chat about stuff and chuck in all the offcuts of all the silly, ridiculous stuff we've said.
Yeah, no, I treat Cheap Show like a butcher's. Like, we use the whole pig. You know, nothing goes to waste. The offal, the teeth, the hooves, everything goes in to make the haggis that is my podcast. So, yeah, no, I get it.
So special. So special. It's a very special podcast.
It's a very weird thing that deserves to live.
I mean, you've got the following. You got people love it. So you're doing something right for 500 episodes.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. It's not been financially completely rewarding, but it has kept the roof over my head. So I can't, dismiss it too much. So bless it.
I'm just going to say, talking about theatres, did you see Alex Lowe, Clinton Baptiste, the other day?
I never have seen him.
Oh, okay.
But he was taught how to actually do cold and hot reading and things. So he knows his business, that guy. It's a very good show.
Yeah, it's very good. But the other day, he actually posted a picture. They saw it. There was a ghost on stage that appeared in one of the photographs. And people apparently
that's interesting. I'll have to check that out, because we had something like that happen to us when we were on Psychic and Science. It's really interesting. It's a funny story, actually, more than like spooky. But what happened was, we were doing this tour and we did 7 shows. And then our 8th was, oh God, I can't remember what it is. It's in the book. My memory's like a sieve. But whatever it was, this other venue was our next one. It was in the north somewhere. And on the way up, we get this phone call from the manager saying they might want us to cancel the show because they're a bit afraid of what our show coming to the theatre will do. We were like, well, what do you mean? And so it goes, one of our employees took a picture on stage and we caught a ghost in that picture and it scared us. And we think, if you come with your show, you might make things worse there for us. And we were like, well, no, can we see the picture when we turn up? So we drove all the way there thinking the show was going to get cancelled because they got freaked out by this photograph. And then we go in and we sit down in the office with them and they get the photograph out. They're very excited about it. It was taken on some guy's phone and they've printed off on their office printer. They're very excited. And they show us it. And yeah, it is the auditorium. And then there floating in the back is this kind of girl in white, right? Just floating. And we're like, oh God, that is spooky. And then one of our, I want to say roadies, but they're like ghost hunting experts who man the equipment for the show. He went, all right, yeah, no, I'll go take that picture and come right back. And he was gone 15 minutes later. And then 15 minutes later, he comes back and he takes his phone out and he takes a picture of the same area. And he goes, oh yeah, look, there she is. And again, he'd caught the girl. And the staff at the theatre were like, oh, how did you do it? And he went, oh, it's an app on my phone. You can just put ghosts in. This is the girl from The Ring, right? And then also he goes, but look carefully at the photograph. And you look at the photograph and they showed it to us in portrait. And in portrait, it is the ghost is floating, horizontally, right? But then we realized, wait, that's not right. You have to turn the photograph to landscape because that way it's in the correct ratio because the seats were going up into the sky when they should be going left to right. So when you tilt the photograph, all of a sudden that ghost that's flying horizontally is now floating on its side like a magician's assistant trick, and it looks ridiculous. And it's like, oh, so they put the fake ghost in the wrong perspective in the image, and then you all bought it. So anyway, we did the show. Nothing happened the whole night.
It is funny what people see. I think the weekend we had there was a scrying mirror. Is it the scrying mirror?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the black
they call
mirror.
it scrying,
You stare
yeah.
into it. But everyone knows that's. So if you stare at your image long enough, even in a normal mirror, your brain will change your features because it's what your brain does. It just
Right, yeah.
it makes you see things that especially in a dark light with a dark room with a black mirror, and you're staring, you just about to see yourself with a flickering candle. Your brain makes up images. Our brain just makes stuff up.
Yeah, I've just looked at that picture as well, by the way, that you just sent me. Yeah, that's definitely lens flare on the camera, but it still looks good. Yeah.
That's it. So he posted that. Yeah, the second one was the one just afterwards. But Sonny pointed out there, if you look upstairs at the top, the third picture is, and it just shows, like the lens flare, I think.
I think that's all perspective in camera stuff. One of the rules of thumb is if anyone goes, I've got a ghost orb, you just go, I don't want to see it, because ghost orbs mean nothing and are nothing and is not proof of anything other than lens, light flare, dust, and how good or bad your camera is. So yeah. I need to see detail before I go, oh, that's spooky. Otherwise, I tend to say it's probably not that. To each their own. And I've got a ton of photographs like that, which I know aren't ghosty, but look ghosty. So,
Paul, it's been fantastic having you.
It's been lovely to speak to you about it. It's nice to have a nice rant about my ill-informed opinions on the supernatural, and I hope you've enjoyed them.
Yeah, Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been absolutely amazing having you here. Thank you so much for agreeing to be here.
Oh, well, I say my pleasure. And words of encouragement. I don't know. Don't ask me for words of encouragement. Have a great podcast and do it if you love it. That's all that matters, isn't it?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So yes, Paul, thank you for joining us. And to all of our listeners, do look at, if you haven't done so already, look at Cheap Show, listen to the podcast with Paul. Absolutely amazing podcast with him and Eli. Do listen out for his podcast coming out hopefully in September, all about ghosts and things. And, do find us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, TikToks, whatever. And give us some likes there. And some follows and some comments. Let us know if you've enjoyed this episode.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Boo-Foons, mystery investigators.